Are you trying to figure out what's better, the National Guard or Reserves? Do you want to be a drill sergeant? What about Special Forces? How about being the one to get the call when there's emergencies like floods or wildfires? Or maybe learning to be a respiratory therapist? You can do these things in the National Guard and Reserves, but you cannot do all of them in both. In this video, I'm going to talk about the differences between the National Guard and Reserves and how to figure out which one's best for you. Hello and welcome back to my YouTube channel, TeamWillbob. I'm Staff Sergeant Robert Williams, a recruiter for the Washington Army National Guard. Do me a favor and hit that subscribe button and that bell icon. I'm going to be talking specifically about the Army, but you should know that the Air Force also has the Reserve and National Guard for them. The Navy, Marines, and Coast Guard have only the Reserves, and the Space Force has no reserve components at all. There are even a couple states that have naval militias, but no, I don't know which states they are. I've been in the Reserves twice and the National Guard twice. I've switched because I moved to a different state to go to college. I also did a single year in the Reserves and then moved back to Washington State and rejoined the National Guard here. I've spent a total of 2 years and 3 months in the Reserves and a little over 10 years in the National Guard. I tell you this so that you know I do have experience in both and know how both of them work. To be perfectly honest, the National Guard is better, but it is not better for everyone. If I think you would be better served by joining the Reserves or even active duty, I will tell you. I've done it. The American people rightfully expect all members of the armed services to be honest, and I will be honest with you. My job as a non-commissioned officer and career counselor is to do what's best by you, to do right by you. So, first, the Reserves and National Guard are very similar, but have distinctive purposes. The Reserves are there primarily to augment active duty for a deployment or to fill in an active duty base as needed. As such, you can be pulled individually from a reserve unit to be activated. They are also exclusively in the support roles. The National Guard's primary purpose is to assist inside the U.S. when there are emergencies that overwhelm first responders. The National Guard activates entire units at once, so you can only volunteer to be activated as an individual. Jobs in what is called combat arms, like the infantry, are essentially exclusive to the National Guard. There are 2 exceptions to this, being the 442nd Infantry, which is historically a reserve unit in Guam, and drill sergeant units do have infantry-specific slots, but you have to already be qualified and an NCO to join those. So, how do you decide what's better for you? You have to know what you need, what you want, and what's available near you. Pros for the National Guard. First, we are 3 times the size of the Reserves, so we have more locations and more opportunities, such as for promotion. We have more MOSs or jobs like infantry and special forces and other jobs depending on your state. We have extra money for education that comes from the state itself and is only for the National Guard. We have a state grant in Washington that will pay for all of your tuition and fees for every state college for your first bachelor's degree. You can also use that to private colleges and will pay up to the cost of UW Seattle. We have scholarships that are only available to the National Guard, including extra ROTC scholarships. And we get tuition discounts. For instance, you can get up to 50% off tuition at any state university in Washington. We get some smaller things like free hunting licenses. You're the most likely to pass basic training if you're in the National Guard because we have what is called the Recruit Sustainment Program. And that's where you spend your 1 weekend a month before you go to training coming to my unit, the training unit, so that you can learn basic parts of being in the military. We have more possibilities and authorities to give waivers to simply join. With us, you are serving in your local community. You're doing things like responding to floods, wildfires, the Lahar when that finally hits, or packing boxes at food banks. For the reserves to be able to do things like that, you have to exhaust all of the National Guard in your state and still get special approval to use them. We have more full-time job opportunities. Yes, you got to have somebody working full-time in the Reserves and National Guard. We get more money both because we are larger and because we have additional programs like the Homeland Response Force, which is the group that does the planning and coordination for those large emergency responses, and things like funeral honors. We have personnel who go out and perform at funerals doing the burial rites for deceased service members. Lastly, if you want to become a commissioned officer or a warrant officer, your officer candidate school or warrant officer candidate school can be done on your drill weekends and that 1 or 2 two-week periods during the summer. Now, pros for the reserves. Location. You might not have the job you want or even an armory at all for the National Guard nearby you, but there could be a reserve center right by you. I've known people in both the Army Reserves and the Army National Guard who picked that component only because of where they were going to be. I even did that when I transferred when I went to college. Probably the biggest one is that the reserves have more medical jobs than the National Guard. Yes, we have doctors, nurses, dentists, and combat medics, but the reserves have all of the medical specialties available in the Army. No, they're not going to be at every individual medical unit, but they do have all of them. If you want to be a drill sergeant, you have to be in the reserves. They have specific units that just do that. Your annual training, your 2 weeks, you go to an active duty training base and you're training brand new soldiers in either basic training or your advanced individual job. Depending on your state, the National Guard doesn't have every job that every other state does. So the reserves might be the ones that have the job you're looking for, aside from just medical jobs. All right, now let's briefly talk about what is the same for both. Basic training. No matter what component you're in, active duty, reserves, National Guard, you're going to be going to the same base, being trained with all of the same people. The same thing goes for your advanced individual training. No matter what component you're in, you're going to go to that active duty training base and get the same training. Federal tuition assistance and credentialing assistance. Everybody in the military gets that, regardless of service or component. All of the educational items available to the reserves are available to the National Guard. Lastly, we all get the same military discounts on shopping and travel privileges. So when the pandemic is no longer such a huge issue, we'll be able to go back on the space available free flights. Overall, the National Guard is better for most people, but not all. Carefully look at all of the items I've listed and choose what is in your best interest. Thanks for watching my YouTube channel, TeamWillbob, and learning about how to choose between the Army National Guard and the Army Reserves. Do me a favor and hit that subscribe button so you can see more of my videos. And if you want to get in touch with me, do me a favor and give me a call, send me a text, a Facebook message, or an Instagram message. Have a great day.